I'm Michael Bain. It's time once again for our weekly downrange video, coming to you from the Dragon House Studios right here at the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains, where the coyotes howl, and boy do they ever howl. The coyotes killed something close to the house a couple of nights ago. It sounds like some kind of witch's sabbath, or maybe all those monsters from Larry Correa's Monster Hunter International novels managed to come out here on the secret hidden bunker ranch. Certainly had me sitting straight up in bed. Anyway, it's been a while since we talked about 1911s, and I thought a lot of you, especially those of you of the gun sight crowd, of which I'm a part, proud to say, we're starting to get twitchy, because all we've been talking about is Glocks, semi-autos, things like that. So what I wanted to do today is pull out some of my 1911s that have stories around them, and maybe tell you some of those stories, and in fact, maybe bust a couple of myths here. This is the first one that I wanted to show you guys. This is a Kimber Team Match 2, and it was awarded to me by Kimber for a really interesting reason. Way back, going back, I don't know, 15 years, something like that, before we started Shooting Gallery, I was working with the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and I spent a lot of time at the Olympic Center in Colorado Springs working with our Olympians. And one of the things that I learned when I was there is they were broke, which amazed me, because I thought, these guys represent us. I saw what the shooters went through. I saw what they gave up to represent the United States in the Olympics, and it broke my heart that they didn't have enough money to do the stuff they needed to do. So I decided to make that my little goal, to see if I could get them some money on a regular basis. At that time, Gary Ramey, who is now the head of Honor Defense, he founded that company, is CEO of that company. He was VP marketing for the Olympic team. And he and I started putting our heads together and saying, how can we get money for the Olympics on an ongoing basis? Well, I said, what if we got the Olympic imprimatur and the U.S. shooting team imprimatur, and we're able to put it on a gun, and then a proceed from sales of that gun would go to the Olympic team. He goes, can we do that? Like, beats the heck out of me. First person I called was Dwight Van Brunt, who at that time was the main guy at Kimber. I didn't even get 5 minutes into my presentation when Dwight said, done, we're going to make it happen. And we did. And the great thing to me is that thanks to what Kimber started, and giving a portion of these guns to the Olympic team, and what a lot of other companies followed suit doing the same thing, it put the Olympic team, the USA Shooting, on sound financial grounding, which something I'm very proud of. Just a small aside, this is snippy, but I've heard 14, 15 people explain that they put this deal together. They didn't. 3 people, myself, Gary Ramey, Dwight Van Brunt at Kimber. One other story with this gun. So I get it, and I thought, wow, I'd like to have a one-off custom on it. So I called up Bill Lawfridge at Cylinder and Slide Shop, and you know Bill is one of the greatest gunsmiths ever. And I said, I'm going to send you a gun. It's got kind of a, means something to me. It was an award to me from Kimber. Let's make it into one heck of a custom gun. I send it up to the Dakotas, North Dakota, with Bill, and I get a call, and he's like this little squeaky voice, like, Michael, it's Bill. Can you hear me? I said, yeah. He goes, you on the speakerphone? You listening? I said, I'm listening, Bill. And suddenly you hear this crashing of metal and everything. And he goes, I opened up your Kimber. I dumped all the parts into garbage. I'm going to start over and build it from the ground up, okay? Like, yeah, sure. Because that's Bill Lawfridge. That's the kind of guy that Bill is. So, Bill built this gun. It is perfect. It is a 100% ground up custom Barso barrel. Everything about this gun is custom. Everything about this gun is stuff that Bill Lawfridge and I went over together. So, this is one of Michael's treasures. One other one I'll show you here. And boy, you look at that, that's really a beat-up old gun. Yes, that's really a beat-up old gun. It's a Springfield Armory gun. And it wouldn't be exceptional at all, except for this little bitty, you could barely see it, roll marking on the frame right here. It's just little tiny roll marking. What it says is R. Heine, Richard Heine. This is a Richard Heine original, 100% Richard Heine custom gun. And the way it came to be that way is sort of an odd story. I was living out here in Colorado. I'd moved from Florida. One day I got a call from Dick Heine. He goes, I'm almost ready to work on your gun. I said, Dick, you don't have one of my guns. He goes, yeah, I do. I said, no, you don't. So he kind of went this way back and forth. I said, well, I don't recall that I sent you a gun for you to work on. He goes, do you remember down in Florida? It was kind of a big match. And he goes, I was there. You remember when I was there at one of your big matches? I said, yeah. And he goes, remember you won a gun. And at that time, it's really kind of interesting. Springfield Armory hadn't gotten around yet to making whole guns. What they sold were 1911 kits, kind of blister packed. So when you won a Springfield Armory gun, what you got was all these parts for a You Build It Yourself 1911. He goes, you remember you won one of those at the match? I said, yeah, I did. I won the gun. And you were walking out, I was standing there. Do you recall at all what I said to you? I said, this is vaguely coming back. He goes, I told you, give me the gun, because if you put it together, you're only going to screw it up. And I said, oh, wow, I remember that, Dick. He goes, well, it's that gun. I said, Dick, that was 10 years ago. And he goes, yeah, well, you know, quality takes time. He goes, what do you want done to it? I said, do I get the rates from 10 years ago? He goes, you are dreaming. Tell me what you want done to it. So I did what I could afford to have done to it on a full Richard Heine original. Of course, Heine sights and Heine barrel, everything fit absolutely perfectly. Heine parts, shoots amazingly well. But even after a decade, I still didn't get it into my hands. So Dick said he's ready to work on it, right? 4 years passed. So now we're at 14 years since I won this gun at a USPSA match. And I get a call from Dick and he goes, well, it's on the table. What do you want done to it? I said, oh, same gun? He goes, yeah. I said, do I get the prices from 4 years ago? And he goes, ha, ha, ha. Keep laughing, Michael. No. So Dick built the gun. Dick sent me the gun. I've shot the gun a lot. I shot the gun in competition. And one day I was talking to Dick and I said, wow, man, I love shooting your gun in competition. And he goes, you shoot it? I said, yeah, sure. Why would I not shoot it? He goes, do you have any idea what collectors pay for Richard Heine guns? Because you know what? There aren't really going to be anymore. I said, I don't know how collectors would value this gun, but I do know how I value this gun. Once again, you talk about guns that are your treasures. This is one of the guns that is one of my treasures. And it is a great 1911. And I'm proud to say that every time Walt Roush, the late Walt Roush, would come out here to visit, one of the things he would always say is, I'm not going to bring a gun, so when you pick me up at the airport, have a 1911 7-round magazines ready for me. This is the gun that I always had ready for Walt Roush. And because it's the kind of gun that Walt Roush would deserve to carry. So once again, a gun that doesn't get shot so much anymore, but a gun that will never leave my hands, at least not while I'm breathing. This week's Triggered is brought to you by Arms Corps Rock Island Armory. What's your passion? Rossi. The legend continues. Stoger. Everyday Tough. Hunter's HD Gold. They change so you don't have to. MTM Case Guard. Quality shooting sports accessories. And Ed Brown, the best money can buy for over 50 years. Interesting 1911 here. It is a Smith & Wesson. You notice I'm a non-discriminatory 1911 guy. You know, we had a Kimber we were talking about, we had a Springfield Armory we were talking about, and now we're talking about a Smith & Wesson. It is a Scandium-framed 1911, so essentially commander length, a lightweight commander. And this was, I believe, the very first non-full-size gun that Smith & Wesson, not full-size 1911, that Smith & Wesson put out. I believe it's serial number 00028. And they introduced these guns to a few of us at Gunsight. Smith & Wesson invited us all out to Gunsight, and they said, hey, you know, we got something to show you, and we want you to shoot it in the 250 class, our whole 250 pistol class. And, you know, all my friends and I are like, sure, you know, great, always, let's take the 250 class again. And we did with this gun. And again, it shot great. I like lightweight commanders. I've always liked lightweight commanders. It's worth saying that Colonel Jeff Cooper always liked the lightweight commander. And we always knew if you shot them enough, they'll crack the frame. But c'est dommage. Those are the kind of things that happen. But you'll notice on this gun a couple of things. Here, the Gunsight Raven, or the ruptured duck, as many often refer to it. And on the other side as well, on the slide, you have, of course, the Gunsight Raven. really cool. A lot of ravens at Gunsight. But anyway, Jeff Cooper's choice of the logo for Gunsight. And once again, there's always a secondary story. The secondary story on this gun is Smith & Wesson offered us to let us buy them, and every single person there bought the gun, of course. And I got it home and I thought, wow, what do I want to do with a gun that, once again, it becomes a treasure, it becomes a gun that's important to me. I sent it to Wayne Novak, once again, one of the greatest gunsmiths on earth, and said, hey Wayne, here's one of the first Smith & Wesson lightweight commanders. I think Wayne was out there with us. And I don't remember correctly because I'm old. But this gun went to Wayne Novak. And of course, it's got Novak sights. Well, there's a surprise. I think it actually came with a kind of Novak sights. It has a gold bead front sight because that is something that Wayne Novak really, really, really likes. And I like it as well, is that gold bead front sight. It's really more practical than you think. I mean, it picks up amazingly well in low light. So you've got that great Novak sight picture. You've got that great Novak action job. This gun, all these guns on this table, as a matter of fact, have trigger jobs to die for. They are just about as good a trigger jobs as you can get on 1911s. And that includes modern gunsmithing as well. But one thing that Wayne did with this that I think is brilliant is, let's lock this back here. Notice the back strap. You'll notice that it does not have a grip safety. Here, the beaver tail and the mainspring housing are all integral, are all one part. There is no grip safety on this gun. Wayne used to make, I hate grip safeties because I got little girl hands, you know, and if I squeeze a 1911 just right, I'll miss it. The web of my hand will not engage the grip safety. So I'm sitting there going like, nothing happens. So Wayne came up with this idea, which he called the answer. Because the question was, what on earth is the purpose of a grip safety? Which is, other than irritate Michael, none. Yes, we pin them. Number of different ways we pin grip safeties. Don't ever in a million years do this. You could use a piece of leather inside to kind of jam the whole system up. We could actually grind off a certain point on the safety so that it would go back and forth up and down, but it didn't engage. Or sometimes we cut an inner tube from a tire and just wrapped it around the grip so that the grip safety would be engaged. But Wayne created these incredible back straps. However, and this is a fairly big however, some people might call that deactivating a safety device, which, you know, this thing has more safeties on it than almost anything else. Not that big a deal. But once again, Wayne doesn't make these anymore. And in fact, earlier this year, I think at the very beginning of this year, amazingly, I saw one for sale on one of the gun sale sites. In the bag, Wayne Novak, The Answer, integral beaver tail mainspring housing for $450, something like that. A lot more than Wayne charged for it. But anyhow, once again, a gun that I like a lot. Of course, those are also gun sight grips. They're narrow grips. Gun shoots really well, you know. I think if I remember correctly, I did shoot expert with this gun going through there on those drills, which I would hope to be able to do. But it is, to me, like a classic gun sight gun. Classic lightweight commander, actually the kind of gun that Colonel Cooper would love. So it's a gun that stays with me. Finally, here's another one. And this one to me is really, really special. This is completely built by Doug Turnbull. And Doug Turnbull is one of the great master craftsmen of our time, one of the great artists of our time. He just happens to work in guns. And so at a certain point, Doug decided to build a 1911, a complete 1911. And he offered them to people initially. He said, well, you know, I'm selling them to like cowboy shooters who shoot in Wild Bunch, which is of course a competition based on the 1969 movie, The Wild Bunch, which I would argue is the single best Western ever made. And this would be the kind of 1911 that William Holden or Ernest Borgnine would have carried in that film. A lot like a World War I 1911. It's got the hammer, the little bit bigger hammer here that you saw in the earlier guns. Certainly not the commander hammer we're also used to. Got this kind of great big hammer here. If you look over at the safety, it's got that little bitty thumb safety that was used on the early 1911s. You also notice the sights, which suck, but if you're going to be consistent with a World War I 1911, even a World War II 1911, it has to have these little nubby sights. Look at that front sight. It's almost not there. What I think is cool about this gun is a couple of things. It was commissioned by my sweetie for me. And I think that's a really great thing. It is engraved, one side of the slide is engraved Wild Bunch, which is what Doug Turnbull thought this would be ideal for. And the other side of the slide here, if you can see, is engraved with my SAS alias, Wolfbane, which of course was given to me by Judge Harper Cray. SAS, Judge Roy Bean, Harper Cray, SAS 00001. The serial number on this gun is my SAS number, SAS 13557. I have shot this gun. I've actually shot it in Wild Bunch matches, and as one would expect from a work of art, it shoots great. But I mean, there's a part of me, and I've talked about this with Hamilton Bowen. Oh, by the way, the magazine, yes, correct two-tone magazines. This is correct for the period. Thankfully, it does not have a lanyard ring. If you have ever tried to slam home a vintage World War I 1911 magazine with a lanyard ring, wham! Boy, does it hurt. But that's the correct dual color that you'll see on magazines around World War I. But I think these guns are great. With this particular Turnbull gun, with its perfect finish, there's no better metal finisher in America than Doug Turnbull. Although Bobby Tyler is pretty much getting ready to give him a run for his money. I hate the idea of running this gun in and out of a holster, because you know what it's going to do? It's going to sand that perfect finish off. So anyhow, I know this is something a little different, but you know, I do have a large number of guns, and I have a lot of 1911s, but I would consider these four among my treasures, and I wanted to share those with you. So next week, heck, we'll probably get back to polymer and AR-15s. I'm Michael Bain. This is Downrange Radio Video. See you next week.